You are listening to Supplement Source, the official podcast of the Council for Responsible Nutrition. And now your host, Jeff Ventura.
Hello, and thank you for listening to Supplement Source, the podcast of the Council for Responsible Nutrition. I am Jeff Ventura, the Vice President of Communications here at CRN, and I am so thrilled to be joined today by the co-founder of BIOHM Technologies, and he also has another long list of affiliations. He's a professor at Case Western Reserve University. He's also affiliated with the University Hospital of the Cleveland Medical Center. Please help me welcome Mahmoud Ghannoum. Am I pronouncing that right, doctor?
Yes, thank you very much for having me. I'm really delighted to chat with you about this.
Yes, I am thrilled that you're here. It's such an interesting topic to be talking about because we of course, here at CRN, follow the headlines quite closely with regard to trends in the dietary supplement industry, and of course, healthy aging, and now, as it relates to the microbiome, is certainly a hot topic, to say the least. You see a lot more coverage of it out in the news, and so anything that you can do to help us understand that a little bit better is certainly something that we're going to welcome here.
Sure. The microbiome, just let's define it first of all so that people understand what it means. It's really microorganisms that live in and on our body, like in our skin, in the gut, all over the place. And these microbes are not only bacteria, but also fungus and could be viruses as well. So the good news about it, before we only thought that microorganisms are bad news, we have to get rid of them. But in fact, there are some good ones which can help our health. And that's where understanding the microbiome, when it is in balance, it will give us a healthy aging, for example, and healthy GI or gut health, At the same time, it will really tell us, if you are out of balance, what we can do to bring it back together so that you gain your health, overall health. And what's exciting about it, as you said, people, at the beginning, the first phase, people looked at what organisms are there in our body. Then, are they associated with disease? But now the exciting part is phase 3, where we want to find ways to try to rebalance our microbiome to get good health.
How does that tie into longevity? Because I think when people think about the gut, they oftentimes think about it in a very episodic way, right? Like, I have a stomach ache, or I have bloating, or they don't think about it in relation to longevity. And yet what you're saying is that it really does play a role in longevity. I mean, that's essentially why it's important to be mindful of how you're treating the microbiome. Is that right?
Absolutely. How it ties up, if you think about it, when we are talking about these microorganisms, and we as human beings, we start as little babies, we have a microbiome, which is by 3 years, it balances itself, and now it stays with us. But as we get older, as we are aging, our gut linings start to change. In that way, what we see an increase in bacteria and fungus that can cause disease, and a decrease in the good guys like lactobacillus, bifidobacterium, or Saccharomyces. And with that happening, it starts causing leaky gut and inflammation and so on and so forth. So really, this is normal to get aging, but we want to age in a gradual way without ending up having all these chronic diseases, cardiovascular, neurodegenerative diseases and whatever. So that's where the nice tie to the microbiome and how it can help in that area.
Tell me a little bit about the data set at BIOHM and as it relates to age-related changes that you see in the gut microbiome. What is it telling us or telling you?
As you know, probably that BIOHM Technologies started to establish a longevity-focused gut testing. People do gut testing, but now we thought it would be a good idea to look, okay, what happens as we get older? And then when we look at the data, and what I mean by this, we look at what bacteria and fungus are there, whether they are the good guys or the bad guys. because if they are the good guys, this is good for our health. If it is the other way, it is bad. And what we found in our data that if we have an unhealthy aging, our gut imbalance start to affect our body in different ways, where we start to see a decrease, as I mentioned, in the good guys. Like, for example, Faecalibacterium prausnitzii. This is an anti-inflammatory bacteria. When it goes down, this means our body has start to have inflammation. But another organism we saw that as you get older, an organism called Coprococcus. And this Coprococcus, what's nice about it, it breaks down fiber. When we eat fibers, lentils and whatever, then when breaks them down and produce what we call short chain fatty acid. These are sort of small molecules. And these small molecules play a very important role in our gut lining to make sure it is intact, to prevent leaky gut. Also, it helps our immune system so we don't have too much inflammation, because as you know, as we get older, we start to have weaker and weaker inflammation. So having a good microbiome will be very helpful because we support this immune system we have.
And it's not just about digestion, it's also playing a significant role in skin health and mood and even cognition, correct?
Absolutely. That's why, that's what's the beauty of it. As you say, the excitement is when we are looking at the gut, it is not only the microbiome that affect our gastrointestinal symptoms, but we have a relationship between the gut and the brain. It's called gut-brain axis. And so they speak, it's bidirectional communication. Before we used to think our brain tells us everything. And now we started to realize these microbes in our gut can also communicate to the brain. And this way, if you have imbalance in your gut, serotonin, which is produced in the brain and also in the gut, sometimes what happens become less. And that's why we start to have really neurodegenerative diseases and other brain-like diseases, depression and this sort of thing.
It's the linkage between sort of mood and depression and the gut is it's just fascinating. It's one of those things that I think some people get their upset stomach because they're stressed out or whatever, and you realize that it's more than just anecdote, that there is a connection there.
Oh, 100%. You're absolutely right. Like sometimes when we are stressed, you start to have stomach ache,
Right,
so
right.
It's really exactly that. There is a connection. That's why if you want to keep your microbiome healthy and you need to reduce stress. I always say, you know what? You need to take walks. Like now when I go from work after dealing with people all day, which is sometimes tiring, as you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it's pleasure. But when I go home, I take my dog for a walk, and guess what? My stress level goes down, and I really become a happy camper.
Dogs are so wonderful for that.
Yeah. And that's really so important that like if you don't have a dog, okay, I say do some yoga, take a few minutes in the afternoon, just meditate, or don't do anything. Don't think about anything, relax and this sort, because this will help us. And, I can tell you a story. One person submitted a lady, in fact, submitted her stool samples to analyze, and we found that she was really out of whack with respect to the imbalance of the microbiome. So we looked at the details of what she eats and whatever. It's fantastic. Really all healthy type of food and this sort of thing. Yet when we looked at her, stress level was very, very high. So my advice to her was, please start doing these walks, a little of exercise, try to meditate, and it's really fascinating, or do yoga. All of these will help you.
To that end, when we talk about the good gut microbiome versus the bad, you talk about the bad guys, people really can do something about it, right? I mean, you're talking about this woman who got a test. I mean, is there something that one can do to sort of shift the bad to the good?
Sure. Anti-aging strategies, we call it. What can you do to try to really extend your life so that you will have a healthy life? And there are a number of components for it. One of it, which we've been talking about, is the microbiome. Also, you need to change your diet to be more healthy. You need to do physical exercise. And I tell people with respect to the physical exercise, you don't have to kill yourself. Even if you do half an hour walking 3 times a week will be very important. And the other thing which we just talked about is we need to manage our stress. Sleep is another important factor. And finally, as we age, it's very important for us to maintain social interactions. You know, you need to meet people because sometimes when you are alone, it's really very tough, you know. So all the time I say it's a great, join book club, go, you know, have your friends in the neighborhood, meet with them, your family. This all will help you. So you can see there are a number of things you can do to maintain your health.
Well, and speaking of book club, in your book, The Microbiome Diet, it's total gut balance, right? I mean, you talk about there's sort of the magic, you know, the magic ingredients there that people should be thinking about. You say omega-3s, fermented foods, antioxidants, polyphenols, and fiber.
I think basically, when you look at the Total Gut Balance book, which I wrote, and I really was very lucky. I worked with a nutritionist, and we put together even recipes to include these good food. You need it to be nutritionally balanced. You go after whole food based, low glycemic. It's very important to have fibers. You know, fibers and resistant starch, because they can, our good microorganisms, they can break it down and start using it. Important to avoid sugars. Sugar, especially for the fungus Candida. A lot of people know about Candida because of the thrush, okay? So it loves sugar. So that's why you need to really cut it down. Also, we need to use, you know, mono and poly unsaturated fats. We don't like the saturated fats. It's not good. You need to have some proteins as well, especially plant-based proteins. I love fish, for example, salmon, fantastic. Also, you can add some poultry as well. It will be really very, very nice. But the important thing about all of these that we talked about, it has to be flexible, diverse, and really customizable. You need to be relaxed in putting it all together so that it will give you the best benefit.
Make me want to go. I see fermented food in your list.
Yes.
And I think to myself, like sauerkraut, and right, there's all these sort of pickled things that are people don't know, but that's very good for your gut.
Oh, no doubt about it. You know, that's why I remember when I was little boy, my mom always did these gherkins, you know, at home, and all these sauerkraut type of things. And you enjoy it, but at the same time, not knowing that there are some good, like lactobacillus strains there. Like I'm doing some work, and we saw that like Lactobacillus plantarum, for example, is in all these sauerkraut. So definitely they will help you this type of food, you know.
Well, I have some required reading to do to pick up your book. And also, I'm very interested in shaping up my gut. So we really do appreciate you coming on and talking to us today on our little podcast. We really do appreciate it, Dr. Mahmoud Ghannoum. Thank you, a CRN member and an expert on the microbiome and the gut.
Thank you very much for having me. It's really great talking to you. And I really wish you the very best.
You as well. Have a great day.